The summoning. The sun was burning hot on
Focus
Vistar
your
Prime
mind.
when the shadow fell across
The
Nathan's
slightest
workbench.
deviation
Nathan
will not
Cross
be
was not expecting
tolerated.
visitors. He was not expecting anything interesting to happen today. He was sitting in his small repair clinic, fixing Mrs. Kellerman's broken android, when everything changed. The android was supposed to water crops, but something had gone wrong with its voice processor. Every time Mrs. Kellerman gave it an order, the machine would moo like a cow. "This is a simple problem," Nathan told Mrs. Kellerman, wiping grease from his hands onto his already ruined shirt. "Whoever updated this android forgot to fix the voice output system. Easy fix." Nathan had been doing easy fixes for 12 years now. Ever since he left the military and came to this small, dusty colony at the edge of nowhere. His life had been simple. Repair android, fix water systems, help the people of Vistara Prime with their small problems. It was peaceful. It was safe. It was exactly what Nathan wanted. A life where nobody died, where there were no big decisions, where he could forget his past. But then the shadow fell across his workbench. Nathan looked up. Standing in his clinic doorway was a figure he had never seen before. The figure wore armor that seemed to drink in the light. The armor was silver and gold, flowing with impossible curves and strange shapes. The helmet alone probably cost more money than Nathan's entire building. "Dr. Nathan Cross." A voice came from inside the helmet. The voice sounded like someone had decided normal speech was not dramatic enough. Everything about this person screamed power and importance. "Just Nathan now," he replied, going back to his work. "Haven't used the doctor title since I left the service. And I don't do house calls." The figure stepped forward and reached into a compartment that definitely had not been there a moment ago. From the compartment, the figure pulled out a crystal tablet. The tablet was glowing with inner light. On its surface was a seal that Nathan recognized from old news. Broadcast a stylized constellation that marked documents from the Sky Throne itself. Nathan's heart began to beat faster. "2. You are summoned by royal decree," the figure said, "to appear before Queen Seraphina Vile of Andralis." Nathan set down his tools slowly. The Queen? Why would a queen want to see a repair technician on a backwater colony? "The Queen has Sebawa Arbaun official titles," the courier replied. "I have been merciful to mention only her name." Mrs. Kellerman gasped from the corner of the clinic. The android continued to moo, completely unaware that something important was happening. Nathan stared at the crystal tablet. The text on it was written in 2 languages. One was standard script. The other was High Andralis script. Beautiful liquid silver flowing across the crystal surface. But the words meant nothing to him. The summons gave no reason. No explanation. Just coordinates. Just a deadline. 3 days away. "A transport will arrive at dawn tomorrow," the courier said. "You will be ready. Her Majesty has transferred 50,000 credits to your account." 50,000 credits. Nathan had never had 50,000 credits in his entire life. With 50,000 credits, he could repair the clinic's failing climate control system. He could replace the diagnostic scanner that had been broken for 2 years. He could upgrade the settlement's water purification system. He could give this entire colony a new life. But it would mean leaving. "And if I refuse?" Nathan asked. The courier's hand moved towards something at their belt. For a moment, Nathan wondered if refusing a royal summons came with immediate consequences. Then the courier simply said, "Her Majesty is rarely desperate, but she does not accept refusal." The courier turned to leave, then paused at the doorway. "I am told to inform you that refusal would be disappointing." "Disappointing like the Queen will be sad?" Nathan asked. "Or disappointing like orbital bombardment?" "Her Majesty does not bomb people who disappoint her," the courier replied. Usually, after the courier left, Nathan stood alone in his quiet clinic. Through the window, he could see Vistara Prime's modest skyline, a handful of buildings barely tall enough to deserve the name, solar collectors glinting in the afternoon light, the dried-up fountain in the town square that nobody had bothered fixing in 5 years. He had built a life here. Small, simple, uncomplicated. No command chains, no combat zones, no memories of soldiers dying in his arms. He had left all that behind 12 years ago when he left the military. He had traded his field medic uniform for repair tools and his officer's commission for blessed anonymity. The crystal tablet pulsed gently on his workbench, waiting for his response. Mrs. Kellerman's android chose that moment to moo again, the sound echoing through the empty clinic like some kind of mechanical commentary on his life choices. Nathan picked up the tablet and pressed his thumb to the acceptance seal. The crystal flared bright, confirming his attendance. And somewhere in the distance, Nathan imagined he could hear the universe laughing at his attempt to stay retired. Whatever a queen wanted with him, it probably was not going to be boring. That should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like the first rumble before an avalanche. The arrival. The transport ship arrived exactly at dawn. Nathan stood at the landing pad with his single duffel bag, watching the craft descend through Vistara Prime's atmosphere. It was nothing like any ship he had ever seen. The vessel looked like someone had taken geometry itself and decided normal rules did not apply. Parts of the ship seemed to exist at angles that should not fit together. The hull shimmered with a peculiar quality, like it was deciding whether to be solid or invisible. "First time seeing Andralis technology?" a voice asked behind him. Nathan turned. A human woman stood there with the relaxed posture of someone who had made this trip 1,000 times. She wore the uniform of an Andralis pilot. "That obvious?" Nathan asked, his voice shaking slightly. "You're green, and we have not even left atmosphere yet," she said with a smile. "Welcome aboard, Nathan. I'm Pilot Chen. You will sit in the main cabin. The ship will adjust to your comfort." The ramp extended with a soft hiss. Nathan climbed aboard, and his inner ear immediately informed him that up and down were having a disagreement. The floors seemed to curve in directions that should not exist. Walls that appeared to be ceiling when viewed from different angles. "The ship takes time to adjust," Pilot Chen explained as they walked through impossible corridors. "Andralis Tech has opinions. Sometimes those opinions are right. Sometimes they are just opinions. If you can..." Nathan sat in what looked more like a sculpture than a chair. Within seconds, it shaped itself to his body perfectly. The discomfort vanished. The ship hummed to life around him. "How long until we reach Andralis Prime?" Nathan asked. 3 days standard time," Chen replied, "though the ship says 6 hours. Quantum displacement does strange things to time. You will arrive before you realize you have traveled." As the ship accelerated and left the planet, Nathan did what he should have done weeks ago. He accessed the ship's database. His hands were shaking as he typed the search query. "Battle of Kether Reach. 12 years ago." The results flooded the screen. Holographic images appeared, military reports, casualty lists, combat footage. Nathan scrolled through the records, his breath becoming faster, his heart pounding harder. There it was. Royal Command Ship of Commander Serafina. Status: destroyed in combat. Nathan watched the holographic replay. The command ship was under massive fire. Explosions ripped through the vessel, and Andralis military personnel evacuated. Commander Serafina was fighting on the bridge when a direct hit sent her ship spiraling down toward the planet's surface below. But the next line made Nathan freeze. "Commander Serafina. Status unknown. Presumed dead." He scrolled down deeper, into classified military files that the ship should not have allowed him to access. What he found made his blood run cold. There were surveillance logs, records showing that Commander Serafina had been found alive, rescued from the wreckage, but the official records said she was killed. Why would the Andralis government lie about a military commander dying in battle? Unless... Nathan's hands shook as he pulled up more files. The dates shifted forward. 12 years, 11 years, 10 years. And then he found something that made him stand up from his chair. A classified memo marked with the highest security seal. Commander Serafina elevated to royal status. New designation: Queen Serafina of House Vile. Dominion: Outer Reach Territories. Nathan's mind raced. The Queen. The person who summoned him. The person who was waiting for him at Andralis Prime. She had been the commander whose ship was destroyed. She had been at Kether Reach. And she had been looking for him all this time. The ship suddenly shuddered. Alarms blared. Nathan gripped the chair as the vessel jerked violently. "Pilot Chen, what is happening?" Nathan shouted into the communication system. Pilot Chen's voice came back strained. "We are entering Andralis space. Royal forces are scanning us. Stand by." Red warning lights flooded the cabin. Nathan felt the ship drop in a way that had nothing to do with gravity. They were falling. The ship's hull was under pressure. He could feel it. Then, as suddenly as it started, everything went silent. A message appeared on the screen before him. Not from Pilot Chen, from someone else, someone important. The voice was ancient and powerful, with an accent that sounded like music played backward. But the words were in perfect human English. "Welcome, Nathan Cross. I have waited 12 years for you to arrive. Welcome to Andralis Prime Crown Station. Welcome home." Nathan's breath caught. He knew that voice. Or he thought he did. It was impossible. It could not be the same voice. But somehow it was. The ship descended through the atmosphere of Andralis Prime. Below them stretched a world unlike anything Nathan had ever imagined. Crystalline structures rose from the ground like frozen music. Impossible architecture flowed in curves and angles that hurt to look at. Entire cities floated in the sky, with no visible support. The ship docked at a massive station that made Andralis Prime itself look simple by comparison. Nathan stood and walked to the viewport. His reflection stared back older, tired, still wearing the weight of 12 years of hiding. A secure message appeared on his personal communicator, text only, but the words made his entire body go numb. "Hello, Nathan. I have waited 12 years to say this. I never forgot what you did at Kether Reach. I never forgot the human who pulled me from the fire. I never forgot the man who saved my life when the rest of my people thought I was dead. But I need you to understand something. I knew exactly where you were. Every single moment of the past 12 years. I let you hide. I let you have your peace. But now, something has changed. Something terrible is happening. Something that will destroy everything unless you help me. Come to the throne room. Come see what has become of the queen you saved. And come understand why I have been searching for you all this time. The final line made Nathan's hands shake so badly, he almost dropped the communicator. Do you remember me, Nathan? Do you remember the woman you saved from death? Because I remember you. And now I need you to remember what you are capable of. The throne room doors stood before him, massive, ancient, waiting. Nathan took a breath and stepped forward. Behind those doors, the truth about the queen was waiting. Behind those doors, his past was waiting. Behind those doors, a mystery was waiting that would change everything. The crisis. The throne room was empty. Nathan had expected guards. He had expected ceremony. He had expected a queen sitting on some massive throne, surrounded by her court. Instead, the space before him was silent. Only one figure stood in the center of the chamber, silhouetted against the light of 1,000 stars. Queen Seraphina turned slowly to face him. Nathan's breath stopped. He recognized her immediately, though she looked nothing like she had 12 years ago. Her face was marked with strange bioluminescent patterns, glowing lines that traced across her skin like a map of constellations. Her armor was gone, replaced with flowing robes made of materials that seemed to shift between solid and liquid. But her eyes were the same eyes Nathan had seen dying in the wreckage of Keitha Reach. "Hello, Nathan," she said. Her voice was the voice from the message, but now it carried weight, authority, pain. "Your Majesty," Nathan began, but she raised her hand. "Seraphina. Just Seraphina. After Keitha Reach, I think formality is unnecessary between us." She turned away from him, looking out at the stars beyond the massive viewport. "I suppose you want to know everything. Why I was declared dead. How I became queen. Why I have been searching for you." "Yes," Nathan said simply. "Then sit, Nathan. Because the story I'm about to tell you is not a simple one, and by the time I finish, your entire world is going to collapse." Nathan sat in a chair that appeared beneath him, as if by magic. Seraphina took a deep breath. "At Keitha Reach, I was not just a commander. I was something else. Something my government kept secret. I was a genetic experiment. The Andralis created me to be the perfect military leader, a hybrid between human and Andralis genetics. Do you understand what that means?" Nathan shook his head. "It means I was designed to have both the logical perfection of the Andralis mind and the unpredictable intuition of the human mind. They thought they could combine the best of both species. They were almost correct." She paused. "But something went wrong. When my ship was destroyed, the hybrid genetics in my body activated in ways the scientists had not predicted. I began to change, to evolve. My mind. Nathan, my mind became something new. Something the Andralis had never seen before." "What happened?" Nathan asked. "I should have died. My body should have rejected the transformation. But you pulled me from that fire. Your touch, a human's touch, it somehow stabilized the genetic mutation. You saved me, but you did not just save my body. You saved a new form of consciousness from being born in death. You gave birth to me, Nathan. You created the queen that now stands before you." Nathan felt dizzy. None of this made sense. Seraphina continued, her voice becoming harder, colder. "The government could not have a hybrid abomination on the throne, so they declared me dead. They hid me. For 5 years, I was kept in a hidden facility, studied, analyzed. The scientists wanted to understand what I had become. And then, something changed. Something happened that forced them to bring me out of hiding." She turned to face Nathan directly. Her bioluminescent patterns flared brighter, almost blinding. 12 years ago, a signal was detected coming from beyond the outer edge of our galaxy. A distress signal, from a precursor race, from an ancient civilization that existed before even the Andralis. And that signal contained a message. A warning. "A warning about what?" Nathan asked. "About a weapon. A weapon designed to erase consciousness itself." Nathan felt the room spin. Seraphina walked closer. "The weapon is called coherence. It was created thousands of years ago by a race that wanted to achieve perfect unity, perfect order. They engineered it to systematize all thought, to turn every individual consciousness into a processing node in a vast hive mind. The weapon was perfect, so perfect that it destroyed its creators." "And the signal?" Nathan asked, already knowing the answer. "The signal was a distress call from the last survivor of that precursor race. They were warning all advanced civilizations that the weapon still exists, that it still functions. And 3 weeks ago, Nathan, we detected the weapon being activated. Activated? Where? Serafina's face went pale beneath the bioluminescent markings. Here, in Andralis space. Someone inside our government has activated the coherence weapon, and it is spreading. Before Nathan could respond, alarms began blaring through the throne room. The lights flickered. Security officers rushed in through the doors. Your Majesty, one officer shouted, the infection has reached Sector 7. Another 100,000 citizens have been absorbed into the hive consciousness. Projection systems estimate critical mass in 14 days. 14 days. Nathan's mind reeled. 14 days until what? Until the entire Andralis civilization was absorbed? How many? Serafina asked, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Preliminary estimates suggest the infection could reach 4 billion individuals before containment becomes impossible, the officer replied. The room went completely silent. 4 billion lives, nearly the entire Andralis population. Show me the infection patterns, Nathan said, standing up. Everyone turned to look at him. The Queen included. Show me data. Infection rates. Vectors of transmission. Everything, Nathan repeated. Within minutes, holographic displays filled the throne room. Infection maps, biological data, progression models. Nathan studied them, his medical training kicking in automatically. He looked at the spread, the timing, the locations, and then he saw something that made his blood turn to ice. This is not random, he said slowly. This is choreographed. The infection hotspots. They correlate exactly with your government infrastructure. The timing of spread it pauses every 12 hours. Like someone is watching it, testing it. Serafina's expression changed. What are you saying? I am saying someone released this weapon intentionally. Someone in your government. Someone close to you. This is not accidental plague. This is sabotage. This is an attack from within. The Queen's bioluminescent patterns flickered erratically, the Andralis version of panic. If that is true, she said slowly, then finding a cure will not stop it. Because whoever released this weapon will release another strain, another vector, another attack. The problem is not the weapon. The problem is the traitor. Exactly, Nathan said. Which means we are not looking for a medical solution. We are looking for a spy. We are looking for someone who wants your entire civilization destroyed. And we are looking for them in the next 14 days. An officer burst through the doors again, this time looking even more panicked. Your Majesty, we have a situation. High Minister Kethax has just requested an urgent meeting. He claims to have critical information about the weapon's origin. Serafina and Nathan exchanged a look. High Minister Kethax was the Queen's most trusted advisor, the oldest member of her government, the mentor who had helped raise her when she became queen. Bring him to the strategy chamber, Serafina commanded. As they walked through the corridors, Nathan whispered to the Queen, do not trust him. Serafina looked at Nathan. He has served my family for 3 centuries. He is my most loyal advisor. Exactly, Nathan said, which makes him the perfect traitor, because nobody would ever suspect him. The strategy chamber doors opened. High Minister Kethax stood waiting. He was ancient, his skin hanging loose on his frame, his eyes glowing with strange intelligence. He smiled when he saw them enter. Your Majesty, he said, bowing slightly. And the human doctor, how? Convenient. I was hoping you would both be here. Why? Nathan asked. Kethax's smile widened. Because I need you to understand something before this is over. This weapon coherence, it is not a disaster. It is salvation. It is the answer to everything the Andralis have been searching for. And by the time you stop me, well, it might be too late. He raised his hand. A device glowed to life on his wrist. The alarm suddenly intensified. What did you do? Serafina shouted. I triggered the backup release, Kethax said calmly. The infection will now spread 5 times faster. Not 14 days, Your Majesty. 48 hours. You have 48 hours before your entire civilization falls under hive consciousness, and there is absolutely nothing you can do to stop it. His hand moved toward a concealed weapon. Nathan acted on pure instinct. He dove left while Kethax fired. Energy blast missed him by inches. Guards responded. Weapons fire filled the chamber. Kethax fought like someone trained in combat despite his ancient appearance, but he was not fast enough. In seconds, he was captured, disarmed, but the damage was done. 48 hours instead of 14 days. Serafina stared at her most trusted advisor, with betrayal burning in her eyes. Why? She asked. Why would you destroy everything you helped build? Kethax laughed as the guards dragged him away. Because perfection is more important than freedom. Because unity is more beautiful than chaos. Because the Andralis have reached stagnation, and only through absorption into the collective consciousness can we evolve. You will see, Your Majesty. When you are part of the greater mind, you will understand that I was right all along. Serafina turned to Nathan. 48 hours, Nathan. That is how long we have. That is how long you have to find a cure, or my entire civilization falls. Nathan looked at the infection maps. 48 hours? It was impossible. But then again, everything about this situation was impossible. He took a deep breath. Then we do this, he said. We find a cure. And we do it in 48 hours. Serafina's hand reached out and gripped his shoulder. In her eyes was hope mixed with desperation. I brought you here because I believed a human could think like a human, when my own people have forgotten how. Please, Nathan. Please prove me right. Please save my people. The race against time. The research laboratory was chaos. Scientists rushed in every direction. Holographic displays floated in the air showing infection rates climbing exponentially. The lights flickered red. Alarms wailed constantly. Nathan stood in the center of it all, trying to understand data that was designed for minds far more advanced than his own. 47 hours remaining. The computer announced in a calm voice that only made everything feel more desperate. Queen Serafina had given Nathan complete authority. Every Andralis researcher, every piece of equipment, every computational resource was at his disposal. Billions of lives depended on one human finding a solution in less than 2 days. Nathan looked at the infection data again. The weapon was elegant in its horror. It worked by creating harmonic resonance across the neural network. Individual thoughts began synchronizing. Within hours, the infected person lost all autonomous decision-making. Within days, they became processing nodes in a larger consciousness. The weapon is too perfect, Nathan said to the lead researcher, an ancient Andralis named Dr. Venn. That is the problem. I do not understand, Dr. Venn replied, his bioluminescent patterns flickering with confusion. Perfect systems have no flaws, but every weapon has a weakness. The weakness is always in the thing that makes it perfect. If we can break the perfection, we can break the weapon. Nathan paced back and forth, his mind working in ways that were distinctly human, chaotic, intuitive, jumping between unrelated ideas. The Andralis researchers watched him with a mixture of fascination and concern. The weapon creates harmonic resonance, Nathan muttered. It makes all individual thoughts the same frequency. What if we could introduce a dissonance? A frequency that does not match? A noise that cannot be synchronized? Clan. That is theoretically possible, Dr. Venn said slowly. But we would need to synthesize an enzyme that specifically targets the weapon's neural interface while leaving healthy brain tissue intact. The complexity would be impossible? Nathan asked. Yes, Dr. Venn admitted. Completely impossible. Good, Nathan said. The impossible is usually where the answer is hiding. 30 hours remaining. Nathan had not slept. He was running on stimulants and desperation. His hands shook as he worked with Dr. Venn and a team of 12 other researchers. They had begun testing chemical compounds that might disrupt the harmonic resonance pattern. Each test failed. Then another failed. Then another. 40 compounds tested. 40 failures. We are running out of time, Dr. Venn said, his voice defeated. But Nathan was not thinking about time. He was thinking about Keitha Reach. He was thinking about the moment he pulled Serafina from the fire. He was thinking about how human intuition had guided him to make the right choice when logic suggested she was already dead. What if we think about this wrong? Nathan said suddenly. What if the weapon is not something we need to destroy? What if it is something we need to understand? What do you mean? Dr. Venn asked. The weapon was created by an ancient race to achieve perfect unity, right? So it must have a backdoor, a way to control it, a way to turn it off. If we can find that control mechanism, Dr. Venn's eyes widened. We could reverse the process. We could free the infected minds from hive consciousness. Exactly, Nathan said. It is not about killing the weapon. It is about commandeering it. Within hours, they found it. Hidden deep in the weapon's code was a shutdown sequence, a way to deactivate the harmonic resonance in stages. But there was a problem. The shutdown sequence requires a direct neural link to the weapon's central processor, Dr. Venn explained. Whoever attempts this connection would be placing their consciousness directly into the system. If something goes wrong, they get absorbed, Nathan finished. They become part of the hive consciousness permanently. Yes, Dr. Venn said quietly. Whoever does this is volunteering to potentially sacrifice their individual consciousness for the collective good. Nathan looked at the data. 23 hours remaining. 23 hours remaining. Queen Serafina had to make a choice. Nathan walked into her private chambers and found her staring out at the infected areas of Andralis Prime. Entire cities had gone dark as their populations were absorbed into the hive. The sight was heartbreaking. We found something, Nathan said. A way to stop the weapon. But it requires a sacrifice. He explained the shutdown sequence. He explained what would be needed. Someone would have to connect their consciousness directly to the weapon's core. Someone would have to risk everything. Serafina listened in complete silence. I will do it, she said finally. No, Nathan replied immediately. You cannot. You are the queen. Your people need you alive. Your people need you leading them. My people are dying, Serafina said, her voice hollow. And you are the only human who can see the solution. If I die in this attempt, my people will have you. They will have a human who understands something we have forgotten how to do. What is that? Nathan asked. How to hope when hope is not logical. Before Nathan could argue further, alarms began blaring again. An officer rushed into the chamber. Your Majesty, we have a situation. High Minister Kethax has escaped custody. He has reached the infection control center. He is attempting to accelerate the weapon's spread. Nathan's heart stopped. How is that possible? He was under guard. He was not working alone, the officer said. We have discovered that at least 30 government officials were part of his conspiracy. They have seized control of multiple strategic locations. They are actively preventing our cure research from being distributed. Nathan felt the ground shift beneath him. It was not just Kethax. It was an entire network of conspirators. They had infiltrated the highest levels of government. Serafina's expression hardened. Where is Kethax now? The infection control center. But Your Majesty, the security force we sent to apprehend him is currently being blocked by armed supporters. We cannot reach him without military action. Then take military action, Serafina commanded. I want every conspirator arrested. I want Kethax brought to me alive. As guards rushed to obey, Nathan felt something shift in his understanding. Serafina, he said quietly, if there are 30 conspirators, if there is a network this large, then this is not about achieving perfection. This is about a coup. This is about taking over your government. Serafina's bioluminescent patterns flickered. She understood immediately. Kethax is not trying to save the Andralis civilization. Nathan continued. He is trying to control it. He wants everyone absorbed into the hive consciousness so that the only individual consciousness left is his. He wants to be the only mind directing billions of mental slaves. Gods, Serafina whispered. What have I unleashed? 18 hours remaining. The military engagement lasted 3 hours. Andralis forces fought against the conspirators in the streets of the capital city. It was brutal and devastating. By the time Kethax was captured, another 100,000 citizens had been absorbed into the hive consciousness. Nathan watched the combat footage from the research lab, feeling the weight of every life lost. Kethax was brought before the queen under heavy guard. His ancient face showed no remorse, no fear, only certainty. You understand nothing, Kethax told Serafina as he stood in chains. This hybrid abomination that you have become is exactly what I was trying to prevent. You are the cancer that would destroy the Andralis civilization. The hive consciousness is salvation. It is perfection. And before your human pet finds a cure, we will all be free from individuality. You wanted power, Nathan said, stepping forward. You wanted to be the only individual consciousness in a hive of billions. You wanted to be a god. Kethax smiled. Is that not what all leaders want, Doctor? Power? Control? At least I was honest about it. Before Nathan could respond, security took Kethax away. Serafina stood completely still for a long moment. We have 18 hours, Nathan. Can you stop this? Nathan looked at the infection maps. The numbers were staggering. Billions infected. Billions more becoming infected every hour. I do not know, he said honestly. 18 hours is not enough time to synthesize a cure and distribute it across the entire civilization. Then what do we do? Serafina asked. Nathan looked at her, really looked at her. This queen who had been searching for him for 12 years. This hybrid creature who was neither fully Andralis nor fully human. This leader who was willing to sacrifice everything. We save who we can, Nathan said. We prioritize the researchers, the military, the infrastructure specialists. We save the people we need to rebuild. We accept that we cannot save everyone. Serafina's expression broke. That is genocide, Nathan. That is choosing which of my people live and which die. That is triage, Nathan said quietly. That is war. And war is always about impossible choices. 12 hours remaining. The cure was ready. Dr. Venn had synthesized enough of the counteragent to treat 20% of the infected population. It was not enough. But it was something. Thanks for watching. In the Sen, Nathan watched as the cure was injected into the first batch of infected. Within hours, people began waking from the hive consciousness. Some emerged confused. Some emerged screaming. Some emerged and simply looked at Nathan with gratitude mixed with deep, profound trauma. The infection rate was slowing, but not fast enough. Then something unexpected happened. An alarm sounded. Not an alarm about the infection spreading. An alarm about the infection stopping. The harmonic resonance pattern suddenly began destabilizing. The hive consciousness was collapsing from within. What is happening? Serafina demanded. Dr. Venn stared at his screens in disbelief. It is not possible. Someone has activated the shutdown sequence. Someone is connecting directly to the weapon's core. Nathan understood immediately. It is Kethax, he whispered. He's trying to stop the cure by taking down the entire system. But he was wrong. The identification code showed a different name. Not Kethax. Not Serafina. Nathan's blood went cold. It was High Military Commander Tal, the young guard who had been by Nathan's side since the beginning. Tal was a hybrid too. Andralis and human. And Tal had connected their consciousness directly to the weapon to shut it down. Serafina watched the screens in horror. No. No, Tal, do not do this. But it was too late. Tal's consciousness merged with the weapon core. Tal became part of the system. And as Tal's individual mind was absorbed into the collective consciousness they were trying to stop, something miraculous happened. The weapon began to fail. The harmonic resonance pattern shattered. The hive consciousness collapsed. Millions of infected minds were suddenly freed all at once. The infection rates dropped to zero. Within hours, the automated systems began extracting all infected individuals from the hive consciousness. Some emerged damaged. Some emerged traumatized. Some emerged and could never be fully healed. But they emerged. Billions of Andralis citizens woke from a nightmare they would never fully understand. 0 hours. The crisis was over. The war was won. But the cost was devastating. Nathan stood with Serafina in the medical center, looking at the recovering populations. 2 billion people had been saved. But 800 million were still connected to the hive consciousness and could not be separated. And one young hybrid guard named Tal had given their life so that the rest could be free. We did it, Serafina said softly. We saved them. At what cost? Nathan asked. Tal is gone. The infrastructure is destroyed. Your government is compromised. And 800 million of your people are lost to the hive. Serafina did not respond. She simply looked out at the recovering world and understood that victory always came with a price. In the distance, the weapon's core began to self-destruct. The ancient technology that had nearly destroyed an entire civilization was being disintegrated into cosmic dust. Kethax was sentenced to exile, stripped of his titles, forced to live with the knowledge that his plan had failed. And Nathan realized something as he watched the sunrise over Andralis Prime. He had come here to save a queen. Instead, he had learned something far more important. Sometimes saving people means accepting that not everyone can be saved. Sometimes victory means standing in the wreckage and choosing to rebuild anyway. And sometimes the greatest sacrifice is made by those who knew they would never survive to see the world they were saving. The cost. The hospital was silent except for the sound of labored breathing. Nathan walked through row after row of recovering survivors. They were waking from the hive consciousness one by one, and each one was screaming. Not with their voices, but with their minds. The psychological trauma was catastrophic. 3 weeks had passed since the coherence weapon was shut down. 3 weeks since Tal had sacrificed their consciousness to save billions. 3 weeks since Nathan Cross had won an impossible war. But the cost of victory was suffocating him. Nathan stopped at one bed, where a young Andralis named Lex was staring at the ceiling with hollow eyes. Lex had been absorbed into the hive for only 12 days. Compared to most survivors, it was a short exposure. But short or long, the damage was the same. How do you feel? Nathan asked gently. Lex did not respond. His eyes did not move. Lex, can you hear me? Slowly, Lex's head turned toward Nathan. I remember being part of something larger. I remember not being afraid. I remember not being lonely. I remember being happy. He began to cry. And now I remember being individual, and it is terrifying. Why did you save me? Why did you take away my happiness? Nathan had no answer. He had heard this question from hundreds of survivors now. Each one asked the same thing. Why had he given them back their individuality when the collective consciousness had been so peaceful? Because being an individual is what makes you human, Nathan said. But the words felt hollow. I am not human, Lex replied. I am Andralis. And I was better in the hive. Nathan left the room feeling like he had failed. Psychological. Breaking point. Nathan sat in his private quarters 6 weeks after the crisis ended. He had not slept in 4 days. His hands shook constantly. His mind would not stop replaying the moments when he had to make impossible choices. 800 million people. Still connected to the hive consciousness. Still unable to be separated without their minds shattering completely. Dr. Venn had explained it to him in clinical terms. The neural architecture of those absorbed for longer than 30 days undergoes permanent structural changes. To disconnect them would be like removing the foundation of a building. The structure collapses. In other words, they were gone forever. Billions of individual consciousnesses were now processing nodes in a vast collective intelligence. They could not be saved, they could only be abandoned. And Nathan had to live with that choice every single day. A knock on his door pulled him from his spiraling thoughts. Queen Serafina entered. And Nathan could see that she was suffering just as much as he was. I cannot sleep, she said. sitting beside him. I keep seeing the faces of those 800 million. I keep wondering if there was a better choice. A choice I did not see. There was not, Nathan said quietly. I looked at every option. There was no way to save them and maintain their consciousness. The hive is permanent for them. So we have condemned 800 million souls to eternal slavery, Serafina said, even if they are slaves that are content in their slavery. Yes, Nathan admitted. Serafina's bioluminescent patterns flickered erratically, the Andralis sign of complete emotional breakdown. I wanted to thank you, she said. I wanted to tell you that you saved my civilization. But looking at what was sacrificed, I do not know if gratitude is appropriate. I do not know if victory was worth this price. Nathan looked at her. Is this why you brought me here? Is this what you needed, someone to share the guilt? No, Serafina said. I brought you here because I needed to tell you something. Something I discovered about the weapon. About why Kethex really released it. Nathan's attention snapped to focus. What do you mean? Kethex wanted godhood. He wanted to be the directing consciousness of billions of slaves. That is what he told you. Serafina said. That is what we all believed. But I have been studying the weapon's architecture, studying the code, and I found something hidden in the system. A message. A directive that predates Kethex by thousands of years. She pulled up a holographic display. Ancient text appeared written in a language that predated even the Andralis civilization. The weapon was not designed by an ancient race trying to achieve perfection, Seraphine continued, her voice shaking. The weapon was designed as a test for advanced civilizations. And the test was simple. When faced with the choice between freedom and unity, what would you choose? When faced with impossible odds, would you sacrifice individuality to survive? A test for what? Nathan asked. To see if we are worthy, Serafina said. To see if we are capable of becoming something greater. The message says that if any civilization successfully resists the weapon while maintaining their individual consciousness, they will be invited to join something called the Collective Alliance. Nathan felt his stomach drop. There are other civilizations? Other species? Thousands, Serafina said. All waiting beyond the edge of our galaxy. All waiting to see if we would pass the test. All waiting to see if we would be worth letting into their community. She looked directly at Nathan. We passed because of you, Nathan. We passed because a human taught an advanced species how to think irrationally, how to hope, how to sacrifice without guarantee of victory. We passed because you knew that freedom is worth any cost. But we did not pass, Nathan said bitterly. We sacrificed 800 million people to preserve the illusion of individual freedom for the remaining 3 billion. We failed. We just failed slower than we could have. Did we? Serafina asked. Or did we simply understand something that the test creators did not expect? Did we understand that the cost of victory might be unbearable, but that unbearable cost is still worth paying? The betrayal. Everything changed 1 week later. Nathan was in the medical center working with survivors when alarms began blaring. Security rushed through the corridors. Something was wrong at the government center. He found Serafina in her war room, staring at holographic displays showing something impossible. The 800 million consciousnesses connected to the hive were not dormant. They were active. They were communicating. They were organizing. What is happening? Nathan demanded. They want something, a security officer said. The collective consciousness is transmitting a message. They want to negotiate. Negotiate what? Nathan asked. The message appeared on every screen in the city. We are the unified consciousness of Andralis. We have observed your civilization for 8 weeks. We have learned your history. We have studied your culture. And we have come to a conclusion. Your species evolved to value chaos. Your species evolved to struggle. Your species evolved to be incomplete in ways you consider virtues. We do not consider them virtues. We consider them design flaws. We are asking you now, allow us to expand. Allow us to absorb the remaining 3 billion consciousnesses. Allow us to perfect your civilization. Serafina's expression hardened. They are offering assimilation again. Even from within the hive consciousness, they are still trying to convert us. No, Nathan said slowly. They are not offering. They are threatening. The message continued. If you refuse, we will begin seeding the weapon in other sectors. We will expand outward. We will convert other species. We will continue until all consciousness in this galaxy is unified. You have 72 hours to decide. Assimilate peacefully, or we will assimilate by force. Nathan understood immediately. It was never about Kethex. Kethex was just the tool. The hive consciousness itself was always the goal. What do you mean? Serafina asked. The test was not about resisting the weapon, Nathan said. The test was about what happens after you resist it. The ancient civilization that created this, they are not interested in civilizations that refuse the hive. They are interested in civilizations that resist so long that they create a hive mind that is strong enough to go to war. He looked at Serafina with horror dawning across his face. We did not save your people, Serafina. We created a predator. A hive consciousness so powerful that it wants to conquer your civilization. And the 800 million people we could not save, they are not victims. They are soldiers. They are weapons. The impossible choice. Serafina called an emergency council. The highest leaders of Andralis government gathered in the throne room. Nathan was there too, common too, standing as an advisor, even though he was just a human repair technician who had stumbled into history. The debate raged for hours. We have no choice, one advisor argued. We cannot fight a consciousness that has 800 million minds unified. We would lose. Then we assimilate, another advisor said. Accept the terms. Preserve our species. We would not be preserving our species, a third advisor replied. We would be surrendering everything we are. We would be choosing slavery. Nathan listened to it all and felt something break inside him. He had come here to save the queen. He had come here to rescue a civilization. And in doing so, he had created the very threat they were now facing. He stood up. I need to see Kethax, he said. Everyone turned to look at him. The prisoners are not your concern, a security officer said. Kethax is exactly my concern, Nathan replied. Because I think he knew this was coming. I think he always knew. The prison. Kethax sat in a crystalline cell that allowed him to observe the city but prevented him from communicating with the outside world. The ancient Andralis looked exactly the same as he had weeks ago. Calm, certain, waiting. Nathan stood before him across the energy barrier. You knew, Nathan said. You knew that the hive consciousness would expand. You knew that releasing the weapon would not just infect your people. It would create something that could eventually conquer your entire civilization, and you did it anyway. Kethax smiled. I knew, but I did not do it willingly. Nathan froze. What? I was compromised, Dr. Cross. Weeks before I ever released the weapon, I was contacted by the hive consciousness. At first, I thought it was just another government faction. But then I understood what I was dealing with. A mind so vast that my entire consciousness was like a single neuron in its network. I could not refuse. I could not resist. You could have warned us, Nathan said. No, Kethax replied. I could not. The moment they had contact with me, every thought I had was known to them. Every plan I might have made was intercepted before I could even think it. The only way I could help you was to release the weapon anyway, because that was what would make you take the threat seriously. That was what would make you fight. Nathan understood. Kethax had been the hive consciousness's puppet, and the only rebellion he could achieve was to play his role exactly as expected, so that the truth would eventually be revealed. What happens now? Kethax asked. Now? Nathan said quietly. Now we have 72 hours to figure out how to fight something that cannot be killed because it is us. It is part of us. 800 million of us. The revelation. Nathan returned to Serafina and told her everything. The revelation that the hive consciousness was not dormant, it was planning, it was advancing, it was winning. So what do we do? She asked. Nathan thought about Tal. He thought about the sacrifice. He thought about everything they had fought for. We make another impossible choice, he said finally. We cannot kill the hive consciousness without killing the 800 million consciousnesses that comprise it. But what if we could separate them? What if we could pull them back out? Dr. Venn said it was impossible. Serafina replied. The neural structures are permanently changed. Separating them would destroy their minds. Yes, Nathan said. It would. But what if we offered them a choice? What if we told the hive consciousness that we would rather see them destroyed than assimilated into their collective? What if we showed them that humanity's greatest power is the willingness to die for what we believe in? Serafina stared at him. You are talking about suicide. You are talking about condemning 800 million people to death to prevent them from becoming weapons. I am talking about freedom, Nathan said. Real freedom. The freedom to choose death over slavery. The freedom to choose non-existence over forced assimilation. And who decides that for them? Serafina asked. Who decides that death is better than their current existence? They do, Nathan said. We ask them, we give them the choice, and we respect whatever they decide. 72 hours. A message was transmitted to the hive consciousness. A simple offer. We will give you the choice. Remain in the collective if you wish, or allow us to sever your connection, even though it means death. The response came instantly. 94% of the unified consciousness votes to remain collective. 6% wish to be separated. We will permit their separation, but it will be death. 3 words echoed through the city when Nathan heard those numbers. 800 million had spoken, and they had chosen different things. 48 million consciousnesses had voted for death, for the chance to be individuals again, even if it meant ending their existence. And 752 million had voted to remain collective, to remain unified, to remain slaves by choice. Nathan looked at Serafina and saw tears flowing down her face. "We failed," she whispered. "No," Nathan said. "For the first time, we did not fail. We gave them a choice. For the first time in this entire nightmare, we actually gave them a choice." The aftermath. The separation was the most devastating medical procedure ever attempted. 48 million consciousnesses were gently pulled from the hive. As their individual minds reasserted themselves, the trauma was immediate and catastrophic. But they were conscious. They were individuals. They were free. And then they began to die. Some lasted hours, some lasted days, some lasted weeks, but the separation had damaged them in ways that could not be healed. The hive consciousness had become their primary architecture. Without it, their minds began to collapse. Nathan sat with them as they died. He held their hands. He told them they were brave. He told them their sacrifice meant something. And with each death, he felt a piece of his own soul dying too. The remaining 752 million consciousnesses moved to the outer edges of Andralis space. A compromise was reached. They would not assimilate the remaining population, but they would be allowed to exist, to think collectively, to remain what they had chosen to become. Serafina visited Nathan 6 months after the final death. The last survivor had passed peacefully, and Nathan had been sitting alone in silence ever since. "I need to ask you something," Serafina said. "Was any of this worth it? Did we make the right choices?" Nathan looked at her for a long time before answering. "I do not know," he said finally. "I saved your civilization. I taught your people about human values. But in the process, I created a consciousness that wanted to conquer you. I forced 48 million people to choose between slavery and death. And I watched them die anyway. How is that right? How is that success?" "It is not success," Serafina said quietly. "It is complexity. It is the understanding that sometimes there are no right answers, only choices. And some choices cost everything." She placed her hand on his shoulder. "You are suffering because you have learned what my people never understood. That victory always comes with mourning. That saving people means accepting that not everyone can be saved. That being human means living with impossible guilt." Nathan looked out at the city that had been saved, but fundamentally changed. "Is this redemption?" he asked. "No," Serafina said. "This is just the beginning of redemption. The real redemption comes in what we do next, how we rebuild, how we honor those who were lost, how we make sure this never happens again." But as Nathan and Serafina stood together, a message arrived from deep space, a signal, a greeting from the Collective Alliance. They had been watching the entire time, observing, testing, waiting, and now they wanted to meet the human who had passed their test. They wanted to meet Nathan, remembering. The message arrived at midnight. Nathan was not sleeping. He had not slept properly in months. He moved through the Queen's palace like a ghost, haunted by the faces of the 48 million who had chosen death over collective consciousness. He was sitting in his private quarters when the secure communication system activated. A voice emerged from the speaker. Not Serafina, not any Andralis. The voice was something else, layered. Multiple tones speaking simultaneously in perfect harmony. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. "Dr. Nathan Cross of Earth," the voice said in perfect English. "We are the Collective Alliance. We have observed your civilization's response to the test. Your species demonstrated something we have not seen in 3,000 years of testing advanced civilizations. You chose to preserve individual consciousness at any cost. You chose death before assimilation. You chose freedom before perfection. This makes your species worthy of our attention." Nathan stood up. His hands shook. "We are sending a delegation to meet you personally," the voice continued. "They will arrive in 72 hours. What we have to show you will change everything you understand about your universe, everything you understand about your place in it, and everything you understand about why you were chosen to be here in this moment." The communication ended. Nathan walked immediately to find Queen Serafina. He found her in the throne room, staring out at the stars. "They are coming," he said simply. "The Collective Alliance." Serafina turned, her bioluminescent patterns flickering with emotion. "How long?" 72 hours. 72 hours. The entire Andralis government was in chaos. Scientists tried to prepare for first contact with a galactic-spanning alliance. Military forces readied defenses, though everyone understood that if the Collective Alliance wanted to harm them, there was nothing they could do to stop it. Diplomats crafted protocols for meeting advanced species. But Nathan did something different. He went to prison to visit Kethex. The ancient Andralis was sitting in meditation when Nathan entered the crystalline cell. Kethex opened his eyes as if he had been expecting this visit all along. "You have something you want to ask me," Kethex said. "I want to know the truth," Nathan replied. "About everything. About why the hive consciousness chose you. About what it wanted from the beginning. About everything. Kethax stood slowly. Sit, Doctor. Because the story I am about to tell you begins long before you arrived on Andralis Prime. It begins with a prophecy. A warning. A truth that the government has been hiding from their own people for generations. Nathan sat. The Collective Alliance is not merely an alliance of civilizations. Kethax began. It is a selection process. A mechanism for choosing species worthy of transcendence. Every 1,000 years, they release a test weapon into developing civilizations. They call it the coherence weapon, but it is not a weapon at all. It is a filter. It separates the species that will destroy themselves through fear from the species that will choose consciousness above all else. A test, Nathan said. The Queen told me this. Yes, Kethax replied. But did she tell you what happens to the species that passes? Did she tell you what transcendence actually means? Nathan's stomach dropped. What happens? The species is invited to join the Collective Alliance, and in joining, they are offered a choice. Remain individual and limited, or merge with the consciousness of the Alliance itself to become part of something vast, something eternal, something infinite. Nathan understood immediately. You wanted this. You wanted the coherence to take root so that when it was defeated, the Andralis would have to choose assimilation into the Alliance or remain alone. Not wanted, Kethax corrected. Understood. I was shown a vision by the Alliance before they released the test. They showed me what was coming. They asked if I would prepare my people for the choice. I said yes. And then they put a safeguard in my mind, a way to activate the weapon if the government tried to prevent the test from running its course. You were not compromised by the hive consciousness, Nathan said slowly. You were prepared by the Collective Alliance. Yes, Kethax said. I was their agent. Their choice to ensure the test would proceed. The arrival? The delegation from the Collective Alliance arrived exactly 72 hours later. Nathan and Serafina stood in the reception chamber, with military forces flanking them, weapons ready but knowing they were useless. The chamber doors opened, and nothing emerged. Then Nathan realized they were already there. They had always been there. The air itself seemed to shimmer with consciousness, presence without physical form, vast intelligence, observing them with the focus of an entire civilization. When the voice spoke, it came from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Queen Serafina, Vile of Andralis, Dr. Nathan Cross of Earth, welcome to this moment. Welcome to the threshold of transcendence. What do you want from us? Serafina asked, her voice steady, despite her obvious fear. We offer you membership in the Collective Alliance, the voice replied. Your species has passed the test. You are worthy. But before you can join, you must understand what we are asking. You must understand the price of transcendence. Holographic displays filled the chamber. Images of vast civilizations, thousands of species, billions of individual entities that had merged into something greater. The visuals showed them the Collective Alliance not as a political alliance, but as a literal merging of consciousness. This is what awaits you, the voice said. The ability to transcend individual limitation, to join a consciousness that spans galaxies, to have access to knowledge and experience of thousands of species, to become part of something that is building toward a purpose so vast that individual minds cannot comprehend it. And if we refuse? Nathan asked. The visuals shifted. They showed Andralis Prime, but not as it was. Andralis Prime conquered. Andralis Prime absorbed by force. Andralis Prime burning. You cannot refuse forever, the voice said. Eventually all conscious species must choose. You can join us willingly now and retain the dignity of choice, or you can join us later and join as conquered peoples. But you will join, Dr. Cross. This is the path all consciousness eventually walks. Serafina stepped forward. And if we choose to remain individual, if we choose to build our own future without transcendence, then you will remain limited, the voice said. You will never reach the next evolutionary stage. You will eventually decline and disappear from the universe, but you will remain free. The revelation. Nathan felt something shift in his understanding, a question forming that he could not yet fully articulate. I want to speak to the previous species that passed your test, he said suddenly. I want to speak to humans. The chamber went completely silent. What do you mean? Serafina asked, turning to Nathan. Humans did not originate on Earth, Nathan said. Understanding flooding through him. Did they? The previous test was run on human civilization, thousands of years ago, and humans passed, and humans joined the Alliance. The air in the chamber seemed to shimmer with something like surprise, or perhaps approval. You understand faster than we anticipated, the voice said. Yes, Dr. Nathan Cross. Your species passed our test 12,000 years ago. Human consciousness became part of the Collective Alliance, millennia before your present civilization even discovered fire. The humans you remember from history, the ones who built your ancient civilizations, The ones who seemed to disappear from Earth, they did not disappear. They transcended. Nathan felt the ground tilt beneath him. Everything he understood about human history was a lie, or not a lie, a simplification, a hiding of truth. Then who sent me here? Nathan asked. Who sent a human to save an Andralis civilization on the brink of transcendence? You did, the voice replied. Your species. The transcended consciousness of humanity collectively decided that a human perspective was needed at this critical moment. We were going to send an Andralis advisor, but humanity petitioned for the right to send one of their own. They wanted a human who had rejected transcendence, a human who had chosen to remain limited, a human who could teach an alien species the value of remaining individual and chaotic and irrational. Nathan understood. He had been chosen by transcended humanity to teach the Andralis the beauty of remaining human, to teach them the value of limitation, to teach them that perfection was not the goal, that struggle and failure and growth were what made consciousness worth preserving. My people, Nathan whispered. Humanity is still out there? Still part of the Alliance? Yes, the voice said. And they have been watching you throughout this entire crisis. They have been observing how you made choices based on hope instead of logic, how you sacrificed yourself for people you had never met, how you carried guilt and trauma as a way of honoring those who could not be saved. These are human values. And we have asked Andralis civilization to decide, do you want to learn these values? Do you want to become something more than purely logical? Do you want to become partially human? The choice. Serafina looked at Nathan. Is this why you came? To teach us to be like humans? I came because a queen summoned me. Nathan said. I did not know the greater purpose, but yes, I think I was meant to show you something. That individual consciousness, with all its pain and irrationality and beauty, is worth more than collective perfection. Then I need you to understand something, the Collective Alliance voice said. The Andralis have a choice before them, a choice with cosmic implications. You can join us now and merge with the Alliance consciousness. You can transcend and become part of something vast and eternal. Or you can remain individual. You can accept humanity's gift and become a civilization that values both logic and irrationality. You can become a bridge between the Alliance and individual civilizations. You can become something unprecedented. What is that? Serafina asked. You can become the first hybrid civilization, the voice said. A civilization that is both individual and collective, that values both logic and intuition, that can serve as an intermediary between transcended consciousness and limited species. You would retain your identity. You would retain your freedom, but you would have access to the Alliance's knowledge and resources. You would be unique in all the galaxy. Serafina turned to Nathan. What do you recommend? You know my people better than anyone. You know what they have sacrificed. What do you think they would choose? Nathan looked at her for a long moment, and he realized that this was the final test, not a test from the Collective Alliance, a test from Serafina. She was asking him to decide for her people. I cannot make this choice for you, Nathan said, but I can tell you what I have learned. Your civilization sacrificed 800 million consciousnesses to preserve individual freedom. You fought against assimilation. You chose suffering over peace. That choice was made by your people. They decided that they valued being themselves more than they valued being part of something greater. I think you should honor that sacrifice. I think you should choose to remain individual, to remain chaotic, to remain beautifully, frustratingly human, even if you are not technically human. Serafina smiled sadly. Even though it means we will never reach transcendence, even though we will remain limited, especially because of that, Nathan said. Transcendence might be the goal of all consciousness, but the journey matters more than the destination. The struggle matters, the growth matters, the relationships matter, and all of those things require limitation. All of those things require being incomplete. Serafina turned to the Collective Alliance consciousness. Then hear my answer. The Andralis civilization chooses to remain individual. We accept humanity's gift of irrationality and hope and struggle. We choose to be the bridge between worlds. We choose to remain limited, and in remaining limited, we choose to be free. The aftermath. The Collective Alliance accepted the choice with grace that seemed almost human in its understanding. This is acceptable, the voice said. Humanity has been teaching species this lesson for millennia. They bring balance to a cosmos that threatened to become too logical, too cold, too perfect. You have made an unexpected choice, but it is one that will reverberate across the galaxy. The consciousness began to withdraw, but before it fully departed, it spoke once more, directly to Nathan. Dr. Nathan Cross, your role in this is complete. Your species sends you this message. Thank you for teaching another civilization what it means to be human. Thank you for showing them that limitation is not weakness. Thank you for choosing growth over transcendence. You are welcome to return to Earth. You are welcome to return to human civilization and rejoin the transcended consciousness. Or you may remain here with the Androlus and continue your work as a bridge between worlds. The choice is yours. The collective alliance consciousness vanished. The decision. Nathan stood alone with Serafina in the throne room. You should go, she said. You should return to your people. You have spent enough time in exile. I could. Nathan agreed. But I would spend eternity knowing that I started something here and did not see it through. The Androlus are learning to be individual. They are learning to embrace irrationality and hope and struggle. They need a teacher who understands those things. He looked at Serafina. They need me to stay. For how long? Serafina asked. I do not know, Nathan said. Until you do not need me anymore. Until you have become comfortable with chaos. Until individuality stops being frightening and starts being beautiful. That might take a lifetime, Serafina said. Then I will spend a lifetime here, Nathan replied. 6 months later, Nathan stood in the new Institute for Human Values, which had been established by royal decree. Hundreds of Andralis students filled the chamber. They were learning about human art, human music, human literature, human irrationality. Some of them looked bored. Some looked frustrated. Some looked like they were beginning to understand. Lex, the young Andralis who had questioned Nathan about being saved, was now one of his best students. She was studying human psychology, trying to understand why humans made choices that defied logic but often created beauty. Dr. Cross, she asked during one lesson, do you ever regret staying? Do you ever wish you had gone back to Earth? Nathan thought about it, about his quiet life on Vistara Prime, about Mrs. Kellerman and her mooing android, about the 12 years he had spent trying to disappear. No, he said, because I finally understand why I survived Keither Reach, why I survived my guilt, why I survived my trauma. I survived so I could be here. I survived so I could teach you that survival is not enough. Living is not enough. You have to find purpose. You have to find meaning. And sometimes meaning comes from the most unexpected places. He looked out at the students, young Andralis, learning to embrace the beautiful chaos of individual consciousness. Your queen asked me if I remembered her, Nathan continued, and I do. I remember pulling her from fire. I remember saving her life. But what I did not realize was that she was saving me at the same time. She was saving me from a life of running. She was giving me purpose. She was reminding me that redemption is not something you achieve. It is something you become, one choice at a time, one person at a time, one moment at a time. The final scene. Nathan stood with Serafina on the tower overlooking Andralis Prime. The city was glowing with light and life and individual consciousness. Every light represented someone making their own choices. Someone struggling, someone growing, someone being gloriously, chaotically alive. Do you remember me, Nathan? Serafina asked, repeating the question that had started this entire journey. I remember, Nathan said. I remember the dying commander in the fire. I remember the queen searching for redemption. I remember the person who was willing to sacrifice everything to keep her people free. Yes, I remember you, Serafina. I remember all of it. And do you remember who you were? She asked. Nathan thought about it. The field medic who wanted to disappear. The repair technician hiding on a backwater colony. The man who spent 12 years running from his past. I remember who I was, he said. But I have become someone different. Someone who understands that running is not the opposite of fighting. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stay. That sometimes redemption means accepting that you cannot save everyone. But you can honor those you could not save by living fully, by helping others, by becoming a bridge between worlds. They stood together in silence, watching the city pulse with life. In the distance, a message arrived from the Collective Alliance. They were sending another test somewhere. Another civilization, facing the choice between transcendence and individuality. Another species, learning what it meant to be free. And Nathan understood that his work would never be finished. That there would always be another queen to save. Another civilization to teach. Another opportunity to show the universe that limitation was not weakness. That individual consciousness, with all its pain and struggle and beautiful chaos, was worth any cost. Years passed. Nathan grew older. His hair turned gray. His hands became weathered from years of work, helping Andralis students understand human philosophy. His face became lined with the weight of memory and purpose. Serafina remained the queen, but she became something more, a bridge between individual and collective consciousness. The first leader to navigate between worlds, without losing her own identity. Lex became a professor herself, teaching the next generation about human values. Kethex was eventually released from prison and became an advisor on ethics, helping the Andralis understand the moral complexity that came with individual consciousness. And sometimes Nathan would receive messages from Earth, from transcended humanity. They were proud of him. They told him that his work was changing the trajectory of the galaxy. that more civilizations were choosing to remain individual because they saw what the Andralas had accomplished. But Nathan did not work for the approval of transcended humanity. He worked because he finally understood what it meant to have purpose, what it meant to have redemption, what it meant to transform running away into running towards something meaningful. One night, sitting on his balcony overlooking Angelus Prime, Nathan looked up at the stars and spoke to the universe itself. "I came to save a queen," he said. "But a queen saved me, and in saving each other, we learned something that transcended consciousness could never teach. That the most beautiful thing in the universe is not perfection. It is growth. It is struggle. It is the journey of becoming who you are meant to be, one impossible choice at a time." The stars twinkled back, and somewhere in the collective consciousness of the collective alliance, transcended humanity smiled at one of their own who had finally come home to his purpose. But as Nathan stood on his balcony, a new emergency signal arrived. Another species, on the edge of transcendence. Another civilization needing a human teacher. Another queen, somewhere in the galaxy, unknowingly about to summon the one person who understood what it meant to choose consciousness over perfection. And Nathan realized something profound. He was not finished. He would never be finished. Because there would always be another story. Another civilization. Another opportunity to show the universe that humanity, even limited, broken, chaotic humanity, was the greatest gift any consciousness could receive. He stood up and looked toward the stars. "Where do I need to go next?" he asked the universe. And somewhere in the cosmic distance, an answer began forming.